Hey guys, Thomas the Solution here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review. I know it's late, but I'm still here to review Jumanji. Welcome to the jungle. So we follow these four young people who come across this. One singular kid comes across this board game. It is none other than Jumanji. He says, "Oh, I'll play it." He gets trapped in the game, but first he's like, "Oh, board games are old," so it transitions into a video game cartridge, and he begins to play it, gets sucked in. Then it cuts to our main lead, Spencer. It was this sort of nerdy kid, accompanied by someone he was trying to do help uh, with homework for called Fridge, former his best friend. I believe Martha is this sort of loser girl that Spencer starts to like, and then there's Bethany, who's all about herself. So these four end up getting detention, uh, and they all find the game. They simultaneously pick their players, or they eventually get to that point, and from there, the majority of the movie has the player characters played by Dwayne Johnson, Jack Black, Kevin Hart, and Karen Gillian. I hope that's how I say that name, but they take over from that point forward, and we get stuck with the video game aspect and learn about their characters and see how these characters come to learn and grow within the context of the video game. They run into NPCs. They run into the main villain. The main villain gets like this sort of generic sort of backstory, and they get these little mini tests along the way. One of the earlier tests is this snake that Kevin Hart's character can dispose of since he's an animal expert. Jack Black can read the map, so he's able to guide them from location to location. Uh, the female character, the hot female character, is there for mainly action purposes and mainly there for just that. Mainly just if there's an action sequence that has to be carried out. If it's not her, then it's Dwayne Johnson doing the fighting and doing super good at that. But along the way, there's some hiccups, like some of the characters die, yeah, and they realize that they have 3 lives left, and or they started with 3 lives, and along the way they started losing lives, so they had to be more and more careful as they traversed further and further into the game. They were carrying this gem, which one of the NPCs gave to them, this green sort of obvious crystal, where they were supposed to place in the heart of Jumanji and then call out its name, which would allow them to not only beat the game, but to escape it as well. I thought the transition was pretty smooth from the learning moments, and the moral's a little bit repetitive, like, oh, you only live once, sort of moral going on there with, like, playing games is either good or bad thing. They sort of mix it up there for this. Um, and they do come across their 5th player, which was a part of their hint. This flying expert that was afraid of flying from that point forward because he only had 1 life left. But they do manage to get him on board, and he did not realize that he was gone for 20 years in the real life. And once they are able to move around the final villain and traverse the final puzzle, they're able to get him back to his own time and live his own life. So the sense of time in the Jumanji now set of movies has seemed to have this sort of consistent, like, they move through their own time, but the other people who are involved are also aware of that person to some extent, whether it's like acknowledging that that's that person, or sort of just going, "Huh, I think I know you." Like in the original Jumanji, I was like, "You look familiar," and they kind of hinted that they might know each other or something of that nature. I will admit that at least from what I know from the original Jumanji, it did feel like there were a lot less animal-based moments. There were a few. There was the snake I mentioned. There was this hippo moment. There's more snakes later on. I'm trying to think what other animals were there. There's the hippo that initially ate Jack Black's character. I'm trying to think because there's not a lot, and one thing the original movie did utilize was, placing the hints with some sort of animal associated with it, whether it be the spider or the monkeys or the alligator or the rampage that happens that just completely destroys the house in the original. So there's not as much animal variety in this movie. It's more focus. It does seem like it's more focused on the gaming aspect of it, learning about who these characters are. So it's a hit and miss on that aspect. It does do one part better, but it sacrifices the animal aspect that I think does kind of come with the name Jumanji. That just seems to make sense to me. Like that's where I get because the original tokens were animal based. So there is that sort of little sacrifice that definitely felt it was needed. I did think the actors did a decent enough job playing the roles of other characters, essentially. There was like this odd moment where they needed to pee. I felt that scene was very unnecessary since in most video games, realistically, that joke doesn't actually make any sense because if they were to be true to a video game, that would never actually happen because that usually never happens in a video game. The avatars usually never have to use a restroom. The hunger aspect I can understand for the health part, but then they say we're hungry. So again, I think that some of the parts in this movie don't make as much sense, giving it some deeper thought. And I don't think whoever put this together even considered, like, oh, these avatars wouldn't need to use the restroom, or, oh, avatars wouldn't need to, have that need to eat or be hungry necessarily. I mean, sure, you can use it to get health back, but that isn't usually associated with hunger. Those two things don't correlate. But so there are a few plot holes I feel in this movie as well. In the end, I think I would give this score a 6 out of 10. I think it almost reaches a pretty solid 7, but I think the plot holes do hold it back that I just mentioned. And again, a little bit more animal variety I think would have helped go a long way, especially with each puzzle part. But besides that, the acting was decent, and everything else I think was okay enough to carry the movie along. So that is my review of Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. And if you enjoyed this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out that link in the description. It'll head you over to my Patreon page, and any donations are greatly appreciated. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye!